It might be time to start preparing for ET disclosure. And if it happens, will it be real or will it be fake? Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I help people to navigate their spiritual awakening so they can stay on a conscious path of ascension. And if you're new to my channel, welcome! Make sure you subscribe so you catch all my videos to help guide you on your awakening journey. So here's how I think we need to look at the month of August. I think the month of August still gives us a bit of a lull where we need to prepare ourselves for September and for the fall. There's a whole feeling of we need to prepare for something, but we're not really sure what that is. I mean, we're definitely going to have an intensification of fear and chaos, but we might want to spend the month of August quietly preparing ourselves for the possibility of extraterrestrial disclosure. Now, I have some really fascinating things to share with you guys, so make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. So let's take a moment to look at where we are right now. First, we were hit with the trauma of the worldwide lockdown of human civilization and fear about the virus. And then ever since things started to open up, we have been pummeled on a daily basis with images of extreme violence over and over and over again. So it's just been like this rolling trauma that never seems to end. But meanwhile, you guys, there's a very strange little backstory going on throughout this entire period. It looks to me like they have been quietly setting the stage throughout 2020 for possible ET disclosure. Now, I do believe that disclosure will happen, but the question is, when it does, will it be real or will it be fake? Because you see, there is actually a secret project to put out a fake alien invasion in order to get better control of everybody on Earth. See, ever since 2020 began, they have been slowly eking out confirmation and military confirmation about the true existence of UFO craft in the sky. And then this past week was a really big story put out by the New York Times where they said that the Pentagon has admitted in classified briefings that they actually have crashed UFO vehicles that were not made on this Earth. So guys, what's that all about? What are they really up to? And why is it that after 70 years of covering up for Roswell, they're suddenly now going to let us know that there actually is such a thing as a crashed UFO? So you see what they're doing is they're creating an atmosphere of credibility and confirmation about the existence of UFO craft, which the only thing next is confirmation about the extraterrestrials themselves, obviously. So I think there are one of two possible reasons for why they're setting the stage for a possible disclosure. The first reason could be that the actual extraterrestrials have let them know that they are planning to reveal themselves, and the powers that be want to get ahead of that story and control the narrative. Because you see, if they don't let us know that these things are real and credible, and suddenly extraterrestrials were to reveal themselves, they're going to be caught kind of looking stupid, like, oh my goodness, we didn't know about this, right? So this way, they can appear to be in control of the situation to some degree or another. Now, if that is the reason why, I kind of suspect that's not going to be happening anytime soon. That's just my intuitive feeling. But the other reason they could be doing it is because they might be thinking that they're going to have to launch this secret project of a fake alien invasion. So I think we need to be ready for either one. We need to be proactive and just be contemplating these things so that we're not caught by surprise. Now, whether or not the ETs are going to choose to reveal themselves probably depends upon what they want to see actually happen on this planet. But here's what I want you guys to think about regarding a possible fake alien invasion. You know, back in the 1980s, I think it was, when Ronald Reagan was president, he made an interesting statement. He said something like, you know, there's one thing that could bring the whole world together, all the countries together, and that would be an extraterrestrial invasion. It's kind of an interesting thing for a president to say, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe he was thinking fake extraterrestrial invasion. Who knows, right? So right now, the controllers are playing two major cards against us: the lockdown and the health scare and all the violence. So if either one or both of these things start to backfire, they may only have one final card to play, and that card is what is known as Project Bluebeam, which is them staging this phony, fake extraterrestrial invasion so as to get final, full, and total control of the whole planet, put everyone in complete fear and terror, and lock everyone down and get complete control forever. Now, you might wonder, how could they even pull that off? Well, for one thing, they supposedly have technology where they can project holographic images out there, so you actually believe you're seeing extraterrestrial beings or you're seeing spaceships. So they actually have technology where they can do that. But here's the funny thing, you guys. They don't even need that technology. And let me explain why. See, when I first heard about this, I thought to myself, oh, that's just so dumb. They could never pull that off. That's just ridiculous. But then I remembered something. I remembered that they've done it before and it worked. It happened on the night of October 30th, 1938, in the form of a radio broadcast by Orson Welles called War of the Worlds. So what they did is they broadcast a dramatization. This was CBS did this. They broadcasted a dramatization of an alien invasion as though it were an actual newscast. If you want to think of the closest thing to what it was like, it would have been the same way that 9/11 unfolded, where, you know, you were getting these news bulletins and it was traumatic and all these horrible things were happening and nobody knew what was going to happen next. It was kind of like that, only it was just a completely fake radio dramatization with actors. Now, they did announce at the very beginning of this show that this is just a dramatization of War of the Worlds. They said it like really low key. And then apparently when they started it, it seemed so real because they started playing music like they normally play at that time, the way they would play on the radio. And then they would say, oh, we're interrupted with this special news bulletin. So people listening thought this was real, actual news, because in those days, people were getting everything from their radios the same way we today get everything from the internet. Now, there were millions of people listening to this broadcast, and they went completely crazy. There was like total panic. People literally started hallucinating that they were seeing Martians. They were hallucinating. There were people who actually thought they saw real Martians. They thought they saw real fire. They thought they smelled real smoke. In fact, there was one incident where there was a water tower, and the people across the street from this water tower who looked at this water tower every single day of their lives apparently looked at it that night and really believed that they were seeing this giant Martian monster alien and started shooting at it. They were reporting fires that actually didn't exist because the story was that these Martians were these giant monstrous creatures were going around with this heat ray, killing people and burning down buildings and all of this kind of thing. And then militias were springing up to fight the Martians. People were running around in the streets. They were racing all over the place in their cars. A lot of people were being treated in hospitals for shock, for hysteria. People were desperately trying to get to their families and loved ones to say their last words because they thought it was the end of the world. Some people were committing suicide. There were mobs of people who trampled other people. And then, weirdly enough, apparently people were putting towels over their heads and running around with towels over their heads to protect themselves from the Martian heat ray. I don't know why when I thought about that, I was thinking about the masks. Kind of weird, right? Towels on your head, mask on your face, I don't know. Now, the way this ended is supposedly the Martians were defeated by an ordinary Earth bacteria that they were not able to fight off. Now, I find this a little bit weird, like, oh, they were defeated by like a virus. Something very weird about this whole juxtaposition, if you ask me. Oh, and another thing is similar to today. As a result of this pandemonium and this mass panic of millions of people, there was a whole lot of violence erupted, looting erupted. I mean, it was a mess, you guys. And it was all a simulated news broadcast. It was all fake. And apparently there was someone at the time who wrote for the New York Tribune who thought Orson Welles, who was the guy who put this out, had just done such an amazing public service. He should win a Congressional Medal of Honor because of what he contributed to a new understanding of social sciences. Now, supposedly, Orson Welles said, well, he had no idea that this was going to happen. I mean, it was just a play. It was just a drama. But then later on, he apparently said, well, you know, actually, we really weren't as innocent as we pretended to be. We kind of knew we were being a little mischievous. I'm like, a little mischievous? Good grief. Now, what a lot of people don't know is this was also repeated a second time in South America, I think in Chile, in 1944, with exactly the same result. Crazy panic, pandemonium. The same thing happened again. And it was done again in 1949 in Ecuador, in a very rural area and, probably not a very highly populated area. They even planted stories in advance about, this is so interesting, guys, when you think about what they've been doing in 2020, putting all these stories about UFOs, credibility. So when they did it in Ecuador, apparently in advance, they planted stories intentionally in the newspapers saying, talking about flying saucers were seen, UFOs were seen. They did all of that in advance to kind of set people's consciousness up for this fake thing they were going to do. Again, this same exact fake broadcast. And again, the same thing happened, total panic. I'm not sure, but I think in that last one, I think that when they found out that it was fake, it was like this mob just went, I think they burned down the radio station or something. They were so freaked out. Oh, and one more thing they did in these fake alien invasion broadcasts, they actually hired actors to impersonate the voices of known public officials to make it sound more real. For example, in the one they did in the US, I think they hired someone to impersonate Roosevelt who could sound exactly like him. And they did the same thing in South America. They hired actors to impersonate the voices of actual known public officials to make it seem like it was really, really happening. So here's what's really interesting, you guys. They did this like 3 times, from 1938 in the US, 1944 in South America, and then 1949 again in Ecuador and South America. And this was all around the Roswell Crash. How weird is that? Because the Roswell Crash was, I think it was 1947. This is all around World War II. And so it's all really interesting. But my point to you guys is this. They've done this before. This fake alien invasion thing isn't new. So it's really not far-fetched to imagine that they might be trying to do this again on a global scale, because now we have the technology to make this truly global all at once. Now, let me give you another little interesting tidbit. When my family and I visited Roswell a long time ago, we were talking to 2 military guys. These guys were in their 80s, and they had been in Roswell. They were alive when that crash happened. And they were the ones that actually first talked about South America, and they were saying that War of the Worlds and this whole thing with South America and the US and everything was all intentional. That's what they told us. That was all intentional. They wanted to see how people were going to react. It was like a big social experiment. Now, I just want to say the reason I'm telling you guys all of this is because I think if we look at all of this together, we are going to be far better prepared if they decide to pull this out of their hat and pull this number today in this world of social media and global communication and all the high-level technology that they have. We want to be grounded and ready and able to recognize it if they choose to do this. I wouldn't put it past them, as crazy as 2020 has been. Now, when they did this in 1938, what was really interesting was the state of consciousness of the collective consciousness at that time had a lot of parallels to where we are today. Only today it's much worse. But the point is, it was the state of their consciousness was part of the reason why they said there was so much intense panic. I mean, panic to the point of hallucinating through your 5 physical senses that this is actually happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read to you from this book, War of the Worlds. This tells the whole story of everything that was going on at the time. It has the script of the drama. If you guys want to get this book, you can get it on Amazon. I'll leave it in a link in the description. But let me read you this one little passage that's very interesting that shows how there were parallels to what we're going through today. Hadley Cantrill did a study of the causes of panic published in Invasion from Mars, identifying some predictable reasons for why the panic was so extreme. A lack of critical ability was perhaps the most obvious one. Now, one of the things they said after this happened was that education had failed because the critical thinking skills weren't there, right? Kind of interesting, right? Another reason suggested was the presence of a set of beliefs that were consistent with what was described on the radio. The presence of a set of beliefs that were consistent with what was described on the radio. Think about that. A fear of technology, apocalyptic religious beliefs, the expectation that the world was headed toward disaster. Sounds like today, right? The widespread feeling that things were out of control, that individuals no longer had any control over what happened to them. And that all of that, no doubt, exacerbated the panic reaction. Again, so much like today. And then he wrote, particularly since the Depression of 1929, a number of people have begun to wonder whether or not they will ever regain any sense of economic security. Again, it's kind of like where we are, right? And then also, the complexity of modern finance and government, the discrepancy shown in economic and political proposals of the various experts. So in other words, there was a lot of division in what was happening politically at the time. Again, like today. The felt threats of fascism, communism, prolonged unemployment among millions of Americans. These, together with 1,001 other characteristics of modern living, create an environment which the average individual is completely unable to interpret. Very similar to us. And I think I also remember that there was a real political divide at the time as well between the Republicans and the Democrats. Very, very, very strange parallels to today, you guys. Oh, and back at that time, there was a lot of concern about the rise of fascism and Hitler's march across the world. And I guess this was right before World War II. It was that whole environment. And we have a similar environment today, don't we? Isn't there a whole concern about maybe China and what's going on there? There's just so many psychological parallels to what was happening back in 1938. So I find this very, very interesting, you guys. So let's just bring all of this together and talk about what this means to all of us in the month of August 2020. I think today we are far more traumatized. We are in far worse shape than the people in 1938 ever were. So if you think about the level of fear and trauma that it's going on right now, with the lockdown, with the virus, and with all the violence, and then if you were to pile an extraterrestrial invasion on top of that, I mean, that would destroy people. So because we know that they have this in mind and we know they've done it before, we probably ought to get mentally prepared for the possibility just in case something that crazy happens. And I wouldn't be saying this if I hadn't been watching how they were setting the stage and how they were intensifying their confirmation, the official confirmation that this was real, that UFOs are real, we have the crashed vehicles, etc., etc. So again, you guys, I thought this whole idea of a fake alien invasion was completely ridiculous until I remembered War of the Worlds, until I remembered they've done it before, until I remembered that the conditions when they did it before were very parallel to the conditions we're experiencing today, only today it's more intense and it's even worse. And if you look at Ronald Reagan's statement, one thing that could bring us all together without question would be an extraterrestrial invasion. So I wanted to share this video with you guys so you can just kind of be with this or look into it yourselves, research it. The value in doing that is that I think by just contemplating these ideas, we're going to easily recognize if they try to do this fake thing. We're going to know instantly that it's fake. We're going to know exactly what they're trying to do. And then we're in a position to calm everyone else, which would be really cool, wouldn't it? And even if it doesn't happen, we're still preparing ourselves for the possibility in the future of actual extraterrestrials finally revealing themselves to all of us on their very own. So take the month of August to just consider where we are, how you're going to fortify yourself. And by the way, if you want to know what to do to really strengthen and fortify yourself, check out this video right here that I did last Tuesday to show you exactly what you can do to strengthen and empower yourself for the coming days ahead. So overall, you guys, the month of August is likely to show us a great deal about what direction we might be headed in the fall. And whatever direction that is, August is the month to get prepared. August is the month to become very aware of the environment, very aware of what is happening, and very much to empower yourself to be solid and centered and secure and clear so that you have both feet on the ground, you're aware, you're conscious, and you are able to navigate through whatever else is coming our way. Now, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would like to have this information. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with new videos to support you on your spiritual awakening and your ascension. And with that, I'm sending you all so much love, light, and positive, empowering energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.